All right, you're listening to 91.5 WUML Lowell Blues Deluxe, and it's my honor and pleasure to have Roger Earl on with me today. Hello, Roger.
Who am I talking to? Oh, it's John. Hello, John.
Welcome to my show.
Nice to be there. Massachusetts. I spent quite a bit of time back in the mid 80s and early 90s up in the Boston, Massachusetts area.
Well, that's when the show started in 79, 80, my radio show that's still on.
Yeah. Okay.
We were playing. Actually, I was playing rock music back then, and your records were coming in fast and furious when you started out as Foghat.
Well, rock and roll and blues, they're all related. You know, this is the land of music, America. This is one of the reasons I moved here. Blues. We'd be nothing without the blues. I mean, that started it all. Then, of course, jazz and bebop, rock and roll, country, folk, gospel music. This is the land of music. This is where it all came from. And it all got this wonderful amalgamation of all those different talents and artists. And they dragged from all over the world, right here, the melting pot for music. The world would be nothing without music from America. To this day, America gives music to the world. And I'm a small part of it, and I'm very proud of that.
Well, you started out back in the middle to early 60s with Savoy Brown. That was the first band you were in, correct? Or was there bands before that?
There was a band before that, but when I was 16, I was in a band with three other friends of mine from school. Ray Dorset was the lead singer in the band. He went on to be the singer with Margot Jerry. They formed that with my older brother, Colin. And I was best friends with the bass player in that band, and he went on to play all over Europe in bands, and we're still good friends to this day. Don't see each other that much, but we're friends.
So you were in Savoy Brown for about 3 or 4 years with Kim Simmons. And you're in some great records.
Yeah.
From what I remember, some of the early records they had.
Yeah, it was the first 5. I had a lot of fun. It was a big learning curve. But one of the really cool things about working with Kim and Dave and especially Chris Jordan, the singer, it was the first professional band I was in. I was my day job when I was a commercial artist. Had to keep your job. Drums and cymbals weren't cheap. And the really cool thing about when I joined Savoy Brown, we started recording. Basically, I would listen to the songs that Kim or Chris Jordan or Dave were writing. Then I would just play. Nobody said, "Don't do that, Rog." Everybody went, or I get a nod from Chris, or we just start jamming in the studio. But most of the early songs, we would spend. We would rehearse. The arrangements weren't too particularly tricky. It was just a question of getting, the feel and the groove right. That's my job, and it was great. Nobody said, "Don't do this, don't do that." Everybody was like, "I'm the drummer," and I sort of set the tempo, set the feel for stuff, and that was also a real confidence booster, I think, for anybody playing in a band. Like when everybody's like cool with what you're doing, and Chris would say, "Yeah, I like that," or Kim would say, "That was cool, Rog." So it was fun. I think because I took it really seriously, as we all did in that band. But it was like it was music that I loved, the blues and rock and roll. I mean, that was my taste in music. All the bands, the only previous band I'd been in before that, we played blues and rock and roll. Did Chuck Berry songs, tried to copy the Rolling Stones, weren't very good at it. But who didn't want to copy the Rolling Stones? One of my favourite bands. I used to go and see them at the clubs around London, Ilpay Island, the Marquee, stuff like that. They were a great band.
So what made you guys decide you wanted to move away from Savoy Brown and create a new band at the time? What was it? What made you decide you wanted to do that?
I think I'd taken the wrong drugs. I don't know. At the time, it seemed like it was time for a change. Actually, Tony Stevens got fired, and Dave and I, we had a meeting with Kim and with his manager, his brother Harry, and they had a new record deal, and they were going to be, everything was going great. The band was doing great. We were selling out shows. We were earning really good money, between $7,500 and $15,000 a night. That's a lot of money back in 1971. And the band was doing great. We all got on really good. But it was, like I said, Tony got fired for some reason. I don't know why. He was a good bass player. And Dave and I went back to my room, and after the meeting, and Dave and I talked, and Dave started playing a song that went on the first Foghat album. I had a practice pad in the room, and Dave had an acoustic guitar, Fool's Hall of Fame. So that was the first time we played that. And Dave and I were talking. We said, all right. And the next morning we met Harry, the manager of Savoy Brown, for breakfast. And we told him that we wanted to leave, but we would stay as long as Kim needs us, and until he gets a new band together. And he threatened, and then he said, well, you'll never work in the States or in England again. He wasn't very clever, because a real manager would have said, well, I'll manage you boys as well. Right?
Yeah. More money. Why not? Right.
But he wasn't that bright, I don't think. Anyway, he, true to his word, he stopped us from working in England, but we got a record deal anyway. A friend of mine was knew Albert Grossman. We'd been, let's see, we actually, it was about a year. We had a year off the road. We were putting the band together. Rob Price joined us, and we made a 6-song demo that our manager shopped around various record companies. None of them wanted us. We got turned down by everybody. But Albert Grossman came over to the UK, and I rented a room in northwest London, and Albert came to see us. It was just one lunchtime. There's nobody in there. It was just us playing. And I guess Albert Grossman heard something he liked, because we went across he said, is there anywhere we can get some tea and biscuits? And I said, yeah, it's a hotel across the road. So we go there, and Albert orders tea and biscuits, and we sit down, and I think I poured the tea, and Albert went, well, hey, let's do it. And he sent, about a month or so later, he sent me $10,000. I booked time in Rockfield, Wales, and we were off.
You went on Bearsville Records, from what I remember. That was the first label you were on, right? Same as Todd Rundgren.
That's right. In fact, Todd Rundgren helped us out on our first album. He did some mixing for us. He played piano and guitar on a couple of songs. Dave Edmonds actually eventually did the final mixing and production on it. He was an absolute genius. Nick Jameson actually also played keyboards on Bobby Blue Bland's song, I Just Got to Get to Know You. So it was pretty exciting times, actually. It really was. We were having, and then I Just Want to Make Love to You was released as a single over here in the States. Didn't make much noise in England. And our manager said, we're getting played on FM radios. So we booked our flights, got our H1 visas, and over we came and played anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah, I was playing you on the radio show back then, way back when they came out.
Thank you.
Slow Ride was a big song back then.
Slow Ride, that was in 19 75, 76, wasn't it? The first one was I Just Want to Make Love to You, obviously.
Yep.
Yeah, that
Fool for the City was another one. Great song.
That was actually those two songs were on the same album, so we had two hits on one album. Big time.
And then the live album was a big one that you guys put out.
Yeah, well, the band could always play live, even right from the very beginning. It was all about playing live for us. I mean, that's where the thrills came from. In fact, Warner Brothers have released a record from 1973, was recorded at the warehouse in New Orleans, and it was from a 2-track. It was mixed down. There was no way of remixing it, but they sent the tapes to me, and it was from 2 shows we did down there, and that's been released now on Warner Brothers. Actually, no, Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, and it's interesting to hear what we were playing like in 1973. A lot of youthful enthusiasm.
Yeah, I was looking at all the live albums that have come out, especially in the 2000s. You released a few of them.
Yeah, we've actually done 17 studio albums. We've actually probably done as many live albums, records, CDs, albums. Any chance we got, to record when we were live, we'd be in either a venue that could had decent recording equipment, or sometimes it would just be a house mix. We released all those things. So we've probably done as many live albums as we have studio albums. 17 studio albums, and I think 23 live albums. But it was 1977 Foghat Live. That was the biggie. That was multi-platinum. We were pretty hot then. We knew what we were doing. I could still count to 4. 1, 2, 3. Sometimes the band comes in before I get to 4, but that's okay.
So 53 years you've been doing this with
that long? That's terrible. It's a lifetime.
And you're still doing it. You're not going to give up.
A lifetime of sin, debauchery, and music. What a life. You know what? I love my job. I played with some incredible players right from the very beginning. The first band I was in through Savoy Brown, and of course Foghat. I mean, Lonesome Dave was great to play with. Even when he was ill, when he took the stage, it was nothing but like full bore. He was fantastic. And the same with Rod Price. Rod was an incredible lead and slide guitar player. And to this day, we still have great players in the band. Rodney O'Quinn is our bass player. He was handpicked by Craig McGregor, our longtime bass player, my brother by a different mother.
I know your guitar player. He's played a lot of solo records. I remember playing.
Brian Bassett.
Yep.
Yeah, Brian Bassett's been with us 28 years now. He played with Dave, of course, and he played with Rod actually for a while. He's the bright one in the band. He's our producer and engineer.
Scott Holt too.
Pardon?
Scott Holt too.
Yeah, I'm going to get to him. But Brian was in Wild Cherry, Play That Funky Music, White Boy. That came out at the same time as Slow Ride, actually, I believe. We played that song in the set. We played that and Slow Ride, and it seems to go down really well. Scott Holt. Scott Holt is an absolutely incredible guitar player and singer, and a fantastic human being. He cut his teeth learning to play guitar and sing with Buddy Guy. So he's got some chops. I first met Scott in 2014. He came down to our studio down in Florida. And what are you doing up there?
Taking pictures.
There's a hole in the roof. It's all right. Scott Holt came down, and we were about 2 or 3 songs short for a double studio album called Under the Influence. This is about 7, and Scott came down and started writing some songs with me and Brian Bassett. We needed about 3 songs. Instead of 3, we wrote 17.
Wow.
So that was the start of a beautiful friendship with myself and Scott Holt and Brian. And our lead singer left to retire 3 years ago. And fortunately, Scott was in the studio with me at the time. We were writing some material. And I said, "You want to join the band?" And he said, "Okay," because he had to learn a couple of hours worth of Foghat songs in a week. But yeah, Scott Holt is an absolutely brilliant musician, an incredible guitar player. And anytime Buddy Guy's in town when we're playing, I get to meet Buddy because Scott and Buddy Guy are pals.
So has Buddy played with you guys at all?
Not yet. We've talked about it. I've met Buddy Guy a number of times. I was a producer for a presenter at the Memphis Blues Awards a couple of times. And of course, Buddy Guy wins everything. Best guitar player, best singer, best new album, best this, best that. If he played piano, he'd probably been the best piano player anyway. But Buddy Guy, he's literally a living legend and a fabulous human being and a great blues man. And it's a real honor, to sit down and hang out with him. One time they were playing out. I live on Long Island, and Buddy Guy was playing out here in Long Island. And Scott was staying with me for a couple of days. And so we went down to hang out with Buddy. Scott got out to play with him. But before he went on stage, we went backstage to introduce ourselves. And we joined the line. Everybody sort of goes in one at a time to meet Buddy, to pay homage. And we go in there and we sit down. Him and Scott hug each other. And I'm sitting there. And Buddy has this 100-year-old bottle of cognac sitting on the table. And he sees me eyeing it. And he says, you want some of that? And I said, "Yes, please." He said, "Help yourself." So I pour myself a healthy glass of 100-year-old cognac. And then we leave to let Buddy go on and play. And as we're walking back down to the floor, Scott says to me, "Buddy doesn't give that to anybody." And I said, "Well, he probably figured an Englishman would appreciate a fine cognac." Yeah, Buddy Guy, what a hero he is.
Let's talk about you trying out for Jimi Hendrix Experience. I read that in your bio. I was like, wow, I never realized that.
Yeah, I came in 6th or 7th. I knew Jimmy's manager from when I was about 18. Chess Chandler was putting a band together, and I was the drummer in the band. We didn't actually go out and play. We just rehearsed together for a couple of months. Nothing came of it. And I guess he remembered me when Jimmy came over to England, and I was working as a commercial artist, and Chess Chandler called me up and asked me if I'd heard about him, which everybody heard about him, but nobody had ever heard Jimmy. But everybody was raving about him. Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, they're all going on about what a great guitar player he is. So, I auditioned at a jazz club just off of Piccadilly Circus, and I met Jimmy. I actually played with him probably for about half an hour, 40 minutes, something like that. But I think he picked the right drummer. Mitch Mitchell was an incredible drummer, and really, I think, brought some real life to Jimmy's songs. Jimi Hendrix was totally unique in a world of hundreds, if not more than that, great guitar players, thousands probably. And he came along and everybody went, "Oh dear, we're going to have to rethink this." And in fact, Scott Holt is a huge
Jimmy fan.
Yeah. I think that was probably what sort of got him on that road that he's on.
So tell me a Kim Simmons story, since Kim was the first guy to bring you into professional music. And like I said earlier, when we first started, I interviewed Kim back in 2021, and your name came up a few times. And
What did he have to say?
he loved having you guys in the band. He was hurt when you left, but I said to him, "Why are you hurt?" I said, that's where they started out, and they became famous because of you." And he goes, I never thought of that. I never thought of it that way."
Actually, yeah. Well, when we left the band, Kim obviously, Kim got a new band together, and then we officially left the band, and then we struggled for about a year trying to put in the band together, Foghat, and I didn't see Kim for a while, but around 1976, Kim played out here on Long Island at Stony Brook University, and Dave and I went down to see him, and I hadn't seen him since, and we hung out, and they sounded really good. Kim was always a great player, and when they finished, I was back in the dressing room with them. I think I drove Dave home, and then Kim came back to my house and got thoroughly trashed. I think that's when he gave up drinking. But we hung out for a couple of days, actually. I think he was there the next day. He stayed there. And after that, we sort of stayed in touch with each other. And about 15 years or so ago, Savoy Brown was with the same agency as us, Paradise Artists, out in California. And we got to play with each other regularly. Kim played on our previous studio album, Under the Influence. And after we'd finished, actually, that album, Kim came up to me and said, "I'd really like to write some songs for Foghat." And I said, "Well, that would be great, as long as you're playing on them." So, unfortunately, Kim passed. It was over a year ago, last December. But he sent me 4 songs with him singing and playing. And we did 3 of them on the new album on Sonic Mojo. And hold on a second.
There it is, Sonic Mojo.
Kim co-wrote with, She's a Little Bit of Everything, which we claim it was written about his wife, Debbie. Driving On, which is a classic boogie blues tune, and Time Slips Away, which I think Kim wrote when he realized that his time was coming to an end here, which I think was pretty brave to be able to write something like that. Kim was, in my opinion, probably one of the best blues guitar players that ever came out of the UK. He was an incredible guitar player, an incredible songwriter. Every year he would put out a new album, write 10, 12 songs, really good stuff. He had a really good band as well, good drummer and bass player. But he became a great writer. And I think the 3 songs that he co-wrote with us on our new album were probably 3 of the best songs on this album. And I miss him already. I wished he could have played on the record, but I think he would have been proud of the way we played. It was sad losing him, but he was real special, real special.
Yeah, he said he's a creature of habit. He wasn't used to singing, fronting a band for a while. He had to do that, and he had to learn how to do that because he was the songwriter and guitar player. He didn't want to be up front. He said he was a creature of habit. Is that right?
Yeah, but eventually he did become a really accomplished vocalist, I think.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I mean, Savoy Brown had a couple of great vocalists over the years. Obviously, Chris York, I think, just had a magical blues voice, probably one of the best blues singers to ever come out of the UK. Lonesome Dave, he can do some stuff with his vocals, and there was a number of other vocalists that Savoy Brown had. But stick around long enough and practice long enough, you can get it right. And it was, for Kim, it was always about music. It's the same with myself as well. He had a passion for the blues and for playing, and I know that he wanted to be remembered as a blues guitarist. And in my humble opinion, he was exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing we brought out in that interview when I spoke to him was having.
What did he say?
Huh? He had the first integrated blues band in England. He had black people in the band originally. He didn't. He realized that. He said to me, "You know, I didn't even think of it, but the original band, the first band, we had a black singer."
Well, good for them. Any green people in the band?
But
Any
yeah, it was
people in the band?
First integrated British blues band.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe one day the world will get it right. You know, when I first came here, and it's still very prevalent today, everybody's like either a Polish American or a Italian American or this American or that American. Why can't you just be American? There again, it's going to take a long time because this is certainly in the way of the world. It is a new country, and it's a great country, and it has great potential. And I don't think we've even come close to it. Certainly have as far as the music goes, because America, as far as I'm concerned, is a leader in creating and introducing the world to great music. Even to this day, we influence other countries. You know, you got Afghani rappers, Italian rappers, Japanese rappers, R&B singers from every nation on earth, and they're influenced by their American counterparts. Same as I was when I was growing up. I was listening to American music, Muddy Waters, Chuck Berry. Without Chuck Berry, there would be no rock and roll. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, I know. Little Richard too.
Oh, Little Richard. Yeah, of course. What a band. And who was Little Richard's drummer? Earl Palmer, on his records anyway. What a fantastic drummer he was. He went on to become a great session musician as well. Yeah, I used to listen to all those records. That's where I learned to play. Wasn't quite like as good as them, but they were my influence. And Freddie Below, who played on all the stuff from Chess Records, or a lot of it anyway. Yeah, that's where I cut my teeth. I didn't have headphones back then, but I had two 6-inch speakers that were attached to a Grundig tape player into my parents' house, and it would run all the way through the garage and into the house. And I would start the tape player, run out into the drum shed, which was my father's woodworking shed, and I would just play to these songs. And that's how I learned to play. I had a drum teacher for the first 3 years and stopped me from getting into any nasty habits. That didn't happen until the 70s.
So tell me how you got the name Foghat.
Lonesome Dave came up with a name when we were after we'd finished the album. It was came from a Scrabble game him and his brother were playing when they were kids, and that's the truth. Actually, had nothing to do with drugs or anything else.
So that's where the name came from, a Scrabble game.
Yeah, Dave made it up when he was playing Scrabble game with his brother John. Dave was about 13 or 14, and his brother said, "That's not a name," and Dave said, "Yes, it is. Sibling rivalries as they are." Dave was right.
So you kept the name and became famous with it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing all right today, actually. We've been on the Billboard Blues charts now for 20 weeks. How about that?
It's great.
Yeah, and of course we have Sonic Mojo on Foghat Records, but also Warner Brothers and one of their subsidiaries. But there's 4 other Foghat albums have been released in the last 2 months. So there's 5 out there.
So what are the others released? Do you know?
Yeah. Hold on.
Yep.
Hold on. Hold on. Let's go to my record player now. Okay, there's probably 4, I think. But this is the one we're only interested in.
The new one.
This one. There's a bunch of records, mostly singles that were recorded over the first 10 years, no, 12 years, no, 10 years of Foghat. There were singles. There's this one, which is a double live album. It was recorded in at the Warehouse in New Orleans in 1973. It was recorded direct to a 2-track player, so there was no mixing it. They sent me some CDs of, it was nearly 5 hours worth of music, and there was some strange noises going on, but I picked what I figured was some of the best tracks and used this and stuff on there. One of the real cool things about this is that Lonesome Dave would sometimes introduce some stuff with like, do we have permission to jam? Then jam we must. And so this is called Permission to Jam. It was taken from 1973 recordings at the Warehouse over 2 nights. There's some serious youthful exuberance on there. It might have been induced by a few other things as well, but there's a lot of songs on there that we never recorded. It was just because we would jam. We were always a jam band.
Did you pick those before they released it? You picked some of those songs, right?
No, I picked the all the songs. Yeah, there was about 5 hours of music I had to listen to, and we got 2 albums out of it. It's allowing for the fact that it's just direct to 2-track, and some of the balance is a bit strange. There's lots of noises on there, but I thought it was important because it showed the band and what they were like at the very beginning. Like I said, it's not high fidelity, but it's got songs on here like Dust My Broom, Standing at the Crossroads, Mellow Down Easy, Who Do You Love, songs that we never recorded live. So it was interesting. In fact, I sent one off to Tony Stevens the other day. We don't talk much anymore, but I figured he needed one of these. But he was playing on it. He was a good bass player. That's it. Oh, and that one. This is all. That's all studio stuff, though. And singles.
So let's talk about Sonic Mojo.
Right. So what are all these albums doing coming out now? Do you know why? Because we're in the top 20 of the blues charts. That's why. No, they went, hold on, Foghat is getting hot again.
You've always been hot, though, all these years.
Yeah, we've had some people traveling in and out of this band, but I have to tell you, John, the current lineup, I'm having the time of my life with them. Scott Holt is an absolute pleasure and a dream to play with. Brian Bassett is one of the greatest slide and guitar players that I've ever had the pleasure to know, and I've known a couple of good ones. Scott Holt is, like I said, he's a dream. Our bass player was handpicked by Craig McGregor, so it's I'm having the time of my life. I'm going to roll till I'm old. I'm going to rock till I drop. And the really cool thing about playing in this band is I know how fortunate I am, and the only day I'll retire is if I can't play. I had my hands worked on, and my feet worked on, my shoulders worked on, my back, and they glue me back together again. And I sit down and practice and work out and try and stay in shape. And life is good. Life is really good.
Tell me a road story. A good road story.
No, I can't. It involves sex and illicit drugs.
Oh, all right.
And ample amounts of both. I'm a happily married man now.
It's all right.
Actually, no, it is all right. It's great, actually. My first two wives have forgiven me. We were obviously friends, but I wasn't a very good idea to marry. I was always on the road. That's one thing about musicians. We're inherently selfish because you don't get to be good or you don't have degrees of success unless you give it everything you got. I mean, you do. Dave was like that. I am. You give it everything you got because tomorrow might be too late. So, and I always had a passion for music. It was something that Dave and I shared, and also the current lineup as well, as especially Scott Holt and Brian Bassett. They're well educated in the blues and American music, because this is what we do, and I love going in the studio and being creative, especially with the current band. It's we have a blast. We don't have too much fun, do we? But actually, after Lonesome Dave passed, I had to really rethink about what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And the one thing I realized was that if we were going to be relevant and like be able to sort of hold our heads up and do it, we had an incredible catalog of music that we'd recorded over the years, but you have to make new music. You have to sort of be creative. That's, for me, that was imperative in the band, and that's something we've done, and we'll continue to. We've already started working on some new material for the next album. I hope I get some time to go fishing.
Yeah, that's something I read about. You like fishing.
Yeah,
you live on Long Island, so you have plenty of places to go fishing, I bet.
Yeah, I fish out the back door, actually. I live in a houseboat. It's on permanent footing, so the striped bass should be coming in any day. I've been out there thrashing the water at high tide, nothing yet, but probably within the next month or so they'll be coming in. And trouble is, I don't know, I put them all back now. There was a time when I would eat them, but I make excuses now. I go, well, I haven't got time to eat you, so I'm going to put you back. But fishing for me is it's a way to really relax and chill. I fish off the boat, fish off the shore. I can sit out in the boat, out in the sound, and like have a lump of herring on the end and just sit there and have a sandwich and a glass of wine. Or, I fish on, I like fly fishing and for trout streams and stuff like that. Or for Atlantic salmon as well. That's fun. Or go to the Great Lakes and catch salmon there. But it's a way of relaxing, stop thinking about 1, 2, 3, 4, because especially when you're recording, you're always thinking, how can I improve this? What can I do? But one of the hardest things to do when you're actually making records is to let things go. That's one of the cool things about being in a band, as opposed to like one person saying. Foghat was always a band from every incarnation, right from the beginning. It was always the four of us made decisions about what we were doing or not, and it's the same today. We're a band, and I'm really, really pleased with the way this album's turned out, and the fact we never had a #1 record before. You may know that, but this was #1 on Billboard.
On the blues charts, yeah.
The blues charts twice. I'm particularly proud of that.
You should be.
I am.
Let's talk about your setup of drums. You're a drummer.
DW drums. I'm endorsed by DW Drum Workshop. They're made in America by Americans for Americans, but they let limeys use them too. I use pasty cymbals, fantastic cymbals, ProMark drumsticks, and drums. There's some, drums are it's really how you play and what you play. I mean, I've seen drummers get on the same drum kit and sound totally different. It's the drummer who makes the kit work. A drum kit is not a bunch of individual instruments, or I don't think it is anyway. I look at it as a whole. The cymbals do certain things and work certain things. The way you play, with either with the tom-toms and how you work. But if you don't, if the drums are the driving force in the band, they're the ones that set the tempo, the groove, and if you don't swing, you ain't got a thing. So go away. No band ever became really good and/or famous unless they had a great drummer, or I should say, a good drummer, or a drummer who knew what he was doing. Brian Bassett. We were hanging out one time. He said this a couple of years ago to me. He said, "Playing music is like having a conversation with other people, playing." And I said to myself, how cool is that? Because it's the truth. That's what you're doing. You're talking to each other. You're creating a story. My job is to listen to the lead voice, whether it's the vocals, the guitar, and of course myself and the bass player. We say this on a regular basis. They'd be nothing without us. Without the bass and drums, they'd be nothing. Actually, Craig McGregor had a great line. He said, and I love Craig. Craig was my brother by a different mother. I miss him every day. He said, Rog, he said, we lay down the road that they travel on. But there again, it's all about being a band. The moment I still get chills before I go on stage. I really do. I mean, I know what, what the songs are. I've got a set list, which I follow. But I still get chills before I go out on stage. I'm fine as soon as we start. I do the first count, or if Brian starts it off, I'm fine. But about sometime last year, we were playing in this in El Dorado, Arkansas. Now, the reason I remember it being pronounced like that is because we're in this theater, and all around the theater it says, "Don't say El Dorado, it's El Dorado." So, and the reason I remember it is because it was the first night that we played 3 songs from the new album in the set, and they went down really well. So we were, you're always a little bit dubious about playing new music for your fans, especially a band like Foghat that's been around for well over forever. Yeah. And afterwards, we're backstage after the show, and Scott and I having a glass of a Cabernet Sauvignon, and Scott says, "Isn't this great, Rog?" He said, "How many other jobs could you have when you finished working and people stand up and cheer and clap for you?" It's like, but like I said earlier, I know how fortunate I am, and I play in a great band, and these guys I play with are just, we're brothers, and we get on great, and life is good.
What's the set list like for a show, current show? You do go through historically?
We actually, at sound checks, I'll say things sometimes like, let's try Honey Hush today. We haven't played it this year because the bass drum parts are pretty, well, they got this like kind of triplet feel to them, and it's like and it's and anyway, I had to work on that with my feet. But we do them at sound checks. We play different songs from. We had 17 studio albums, so there's a bunch of material to pick from, and either Brian will start one off, or Scott will start playing a blues song that we haven't recorded. Set list is classic Foghat tunes like Slow Ride, Fall for the City, I Just Want to Make Love to You, Stone Blue, Driving Wheel, Road Fever, bunch of 3 songs from the new album. We do Let Me Love You Baby, we play She's a Little Bit of Everything, Black Days and Blue Nights, and sometimes we just and if it's our show and we can play as long as we want, we do that. We play. Our set now is about an hour and 50 minutes, nearly 2 hours, but if there's a time problem there, usually our set is an hour and 15 minutes, or if we're playing festivals, I think we usually only get an hour, playing with ZZ Top or one of the other sort of acts that we play with. ZZ Top, they're fun to play with. I love that band.
Billy Gibbons.
Billy Gibbons is a hero of mine. Fabulous human being, funny, and probably one of the greatest guitar players to come out of Texas. So enjoy playing with them. That was one of Craig McGregor's favorite bands. There's so many classic bands that we play with. We have a great time out there. The band actually sort of talks about the fact that we get paid for traveling. Because typical musicians, we probably play for free. Just don't tell the promoters that. But everything's hurry up and wait. Getting on planes, sitting in cars, trains, sitting in hotel rooms, hurry up and wait. But that hour and 15, hour and a half, 2 hours that you get to play on stage, that's what makes it worthwhile. And it's like I said before, I know how fortunate I am. Also, musicians, certainly musicians that have become successful, I think are inherently selfish. All you think about is playing. Everything else pretty much takes a second seat to playing. You don't get good at what you do if you're not like that. Now, that I don't mean selfish in the way that the way you treat people. I mean, I've always endeavored to sort of be, especially to our fans, because without your fans, you might as well pack up and go home. You have to be selfish because you want to get it right. You want to be as good as you can be. You want to be great. You want those thousands or hundreds of people out there to sort of go home and say, Foghat was great tonight. And it means something, I mean, you have to entertain. That's one of the beauties with Scott Holt joining the band. This is his 3rd year in the band. He loves to talk to people. He talks to the fans like he's there, like he knows them. He talks them into singing along. He tells them stories. I think he learned that from another great artist, Buddy Guy. But it's fun. It's fun.
Well, maybe you'll get Buddy to play with you guys before he retires, because he's on a retirement tour right now.
Yeah, Buddy's been retiring for the last 10 years. But then I think he told Scott, "What am I going to do? What's he going to? What do you do? I mean, you can only get. I mean, I get to go fishing from time to time. I don't know if Buddy fishes. Maybe I should ask him that next time I see him.
He's got a great drummer, Tom Hambridge, that works with him.
Yeah, Tom actually produced our previous studio album, Under the Influence, and Tom co-wrote a bunch of songs with us. Yeah, he was a pleasure to work with. I met Tom, in fact, when I was a presenter at the Memphis Blues Awards about 15 years ago or more, and we went back at the hotel, and I met him in the bar, and we had a few drinks together. Tom drinks bourbon. anyway, he said to me that he was a big Foghat fan and he'd really like to produce a Foghat record one day. And I said, okay. And I kept that in the back of my mind. And Brian Bassett he's produced our last, 3 or 4 studio albums. And I talked to Brian about it and we started working on Under the Influence. And I thought it would be really cool if Brian could just be a guitar player instead of having to sort of, produce and engineer everything, which, is a huge responsibility. And Brian is great at both things. And anyway, he was on board about Tom Hambridge producing the record for us. So he produced the Under the Influence album. And it was fun working with Tom. He first came down to our studio down in Florida and hung out with us. We wrote some songs together just to see if it was going to work. And we, 2 drummers, after a few glasses of fine bourbon, the poor coffee table got beat to shit. But Tom Hambridge, great drummer, great singer, great songwriter too. And hey, plays in Buddy Guy's band. How bad could he be?
Yeah, he started out here in Massachusetts, in Boston.
Yeah. No, he's a really talented human being and a really, really cool guy. I really, really enjoyed working with him. He was a lot of fun to work with, and he's really, really good. Great drummer too. So
you have a tour coming?
Well, we're going to tour forever and ever and ever. We're going to tour, like I said before, I'm going to roll till I'm old, rot till I drop. We've got about 45, 50 dates booked so far for this year. We'll probably end up doing around 65 or 70. We're already booking shows for next year, 25. We've got some shows booked in Europe. We've got some stuff booked for like cruises, Rock Legends cruise. I think we're doing next year in 25. So yeah.
And you're working on some new music for a new record. When's that going to come out? Because this last one, Sonic Mojo.
I know.
That came out in October, right, of last year?
November 10th. It was
November,
released.
yeah.
November 10th, yeah. In fact, we started on a song at our last sound check. Brian and Scott were playing something, and Brian had recorded it on his phone, and our front of house engineer has instructions to record anything that doesn't sound familiar.
There you go.
And that's usually what starts it. I sent some lyrics to Scott with some ideas that I had with our manager, and he's already working on some other stuff. He talked to me about some stuff he's got. Yeah. It's an ongoing process, being creative. It's back in like the 70s and stuff, you'd sell, millions of records and stuff. It's different today. The way music is heard and the way it's promoted and all the other stuff. But that's not going to slow us down. Writing new material and being creative is in our DNA. It's what we do. It's called music.
So how do people find out about you, Roger?
Go and see us. No, foghat.com. All things Foghat are on foghat.com, Foghat Records, Foghat Wine, Foghat T-shirts. We've got some really cool T-shirts. Foghat stuff, glasses, shot glasses.
Foghat Wine. Talk about Foghat Wine. I see you have a winery, right?
Yeah. No, we don't have a winery, but we have a winemaker, and our wine comes from Central Coast of California. We only have 2 wines at the moment. We've been making wine since 2005 was our first vintage. 2005, 2007, 2010, 2012, 13, 14. We have a 2013 Pinot Noir from the Central Coast of California that's fantastic. We have a 2014 Chardonnay from Central Coast of California, and that's delicious too. The COVID nightmare put a stamp on, actually got in the way of making wine for us. And then California had some real horror shows with the fires and landslides and stuff like that. And that sort of stopped a lot of things. I've been talking to a couple of different winemakers about us doing some more, but we haven't. I've been busy actually. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I've been busy with that, but now I drink the wine. There are some issues like sending wine out across the country, but if anybody wants the red or the white, just get in touch with us. And we have a couple of storage areas, one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, and somewhere in the middle. And we can get wine to you.
Foghat.com is where they can go, right?
Yeah, it's foghat.com.
Very good. Well, Roger, go ahead.
Now. I need a glass of wine now.
There you go. So, Roger, thank you very much for taking some time out of your busy life and day.
The truth is, I wasn't busy today. You know, I was talking to you, and I did one other interview earlier. I went to the gym in between, and the sun is coming out now. Whoa, look at that. Maybe I can even go for a walk.
There you go. Get some exercise.
Maybe we'll meet again one of these days, yes?
We will. When you come to town, I'll come see you.
You promise?
I promise.
All right, then I will look forward to that, and we can talk about all things blues.
All things blues.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Good talking to you.
Have a great day.
I will do. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.